Hey guys, and welcome back, and thanks for stopping in today. If you're interested in getting our daily free play over at our main site, you can head on over to stumpthespread.com by clicking the logo in the top right hand corner of this video on desktop, and we'll also link Stump the Spread in the video description if you want to get over there that way. In today's video, we're going to be discussing some decent value bets against the spread in college basketball for January 31st, 2017, final month of the month of January, and we'll get our way through February pretty quick, and then March Madness is just around the corner. So a lot of college basketball up here coming over the next, 5-6 weeks, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So in today's video, we have about, 8 or 9 matchups or so that we want to talk about. And if you're interested in what games I'm going to be touching on, I will link those in the video description as well. And if you're interested in getting more of this content in the future, you can click that subscribe button, and also if you click the thumbs up on this video, it's greatly appreciated. So the first matchup that we want to talk about in today's video is going to be in the Big East between Creighton and Butler. We were really high on this Creighton squad coming into the year, given the amount of veteran talent they were returning, including the influx of talent that they were bringing in there. The Blue Jays just had a tremendous run through the first half or so of the regular season, but now, ever since Maurice Watson Jr. went out, this just isn't quite the same Creighton group. They're still a solid team, but they don't have great guard play right now, and that can really affect a team that likes to move the ball quickly. Creighton is a team that loves to play up-tempo, fast-pace, and without their catalyst in Maurice Watson Jr., they're just not that same consistent threat on the offensive end. We saw that recently. Creighton only put up 51 points against Georgetown in a 20-point loss on the road, and that was just mind-blowing for people that have been following this Creighton squad throughout the regular season. And it's really an unfortunate situation there for Creighton, just given the fact that they had so much promise and have been playing so great this year, and then one injury can just really end your hopes rather quickly of making a push for something like the Big East regular season title. So Creighton, they were able to get past Butler earlier in conference play, but again, that was with Watson in the lineup. Creighton's going on the road here against a Butler squad that actually came up short recently at home to a Georgetown squad that's actually showing quite a bit of momentum right now. But Butler does have one of the best home court advantages in the Big East, and we saw them use that, for instance, in their solid wins against teams like Villanova, Cincinnati, for instance. And we expect Butler to get back on track here, giving the 6 points against a shorthanded Creighton squad as they go on to win and cover this spread. All right, moving on down to a matchup in the ACC here between Wake Forest and Boston College. This Wake Forest squad had their chances, in their last outing at home against Duke, but really fell apart and lost their heads in that one as they went on to lose that matchup. That was a game that Wake Forest really wanted to get there, but unfortunately for them, they were unable to close the deal. It'll be interesting to see where Wake Forest's head is at as a collective team, and if they're able to refocus their efforts here coming out on the road against a Boston College team that they might take for granted in this road situation. Boston College, again this year, not having a whole lot of success in the ACC, but at least Boston College has been fairly competitive in many of their ACC challenges, and part of that could be the fact that a lot of teams in the ACC don't necessarily take Boston College as seriously as a lot of the other matchups that you get in the ACC, but Boston College has been taking advantage and really been competing well in a number of games. Wouldn't be surprised to see Boston College push for the upset in this one. This has a potential trap game written all over it for Wake Forest, coming off of that big emotional defeat on their home court and now having to refocus their efforts going out on the road. And Boston College is getting a decent amount of points here at home. Boston College throughout the year has shown that they can be beaten on their home court, but going here against a Wake Forest squad that we don't think is necessarily going to be up at 100% for playing in this game, we do like the Eagles with the points as the best bet in that particular matchup. All right, moving on down here, the next game I want to talk about is over in the Missouri Valley between Loyola Chicago and Missouri State. This is a rematch of a game we saw not that long ago in Missouri Valley play, as Missouri State went on the road to Loyola Chicago and really was commanding that game for quite a while until the end, where Missouri State had their patented collapse down the stretch, and then they went on to lose that one in the end. This is really a revenge game here for the Bears, and they were in quite a bit of control there in their last matchup against Loyola Chicago, but they just weren't able to get the job done. This is a issue we've been seeing a lot with Missouri State this year. There's just been a number of games that Missouri State has fallen in this year that they could have very easily have picked up the win. This is a team right now that's 5-5 in the MVC, but they could just as easily be 9-1 in conference right now, and we'd be having a whole different conversation right now in terms of this one against the spread. But the Bears have no one to blame but themselves, and I really put it a lot on the coaching in this situation. This is a Missouri State team that has really strong depth, and they have the ability to play fast and really run against their opponents and not have to deal with fatigue, given the fact that they go 10, 11 guys deep. But it just seems like this group plays fast early on, and then they really just grind the game to a complete standstill in the second half, and that's costed them on a number of occasions. This Loyola squad, they picked up a recent win in their last outing on the road against Indiana State. They are going back-to-back on the road, which can be tricky, especially in the Missouri Valley Conference. Missouri State doesn't have the most elite home court advantage by any means, but this Missouri State squad has to be frustrated with some of the defeats that they've picked up recently, and the Bears know that they could be in a much different spot right now if they were just able to close out some of these games. We feel like Missouri State, coming into this revenge matchup on their home court, they will be able to separate and get that lead and then hold on in this one behind their home crowd as they go on to win and cover the spread against the Ramblers. Okay, so over in the SEC, we have a matchup here between Georgia and Kentucky. Georgia is one of those, SEC squads that is hoping to make a run at making the NCAA tournament, but given their results, it's going to be really hard for Georgia to do that. They're going to have to really play some very strong ball throughout the month of February to get in that conversation. They could really, stake their flag here if they're able to perform well on the road against a Kentucky squad that's coming off back-to-back losses. First losing to Tennessee, and then in their last outing losing at home to Kansas. This Kentucky squad obviously has a lot of talent and a strong home court advantage, but Kentucky has fallen a couple times at home this year against quality opposition. Coming off that defeat against Kansas, it'll be interesting to see where Kentucky's head is at. We expect them to come out and perform well enough to get this win, but Georgia has a lot on the line here, and we expect a solid performance out of this Georgia squad, and keeping it at least respectable and just getting this many points it seems pretty generous here. So we're going to take Georgia and getting the 16.5 points as a solid value bet in this matchup. All right, so a little over halfway, or about halfway through the games that I want to touch on. The next game that I want to talk about is going to be between Dayton and Fordham over in the A10. Dayton is a veteran group that looks like they're on the right side of making the tournament right now. Unfortunately for Dayton, they came up short in their last outing on the road against VCU. They had the Rams at different times there where it looked like Dayton might have been able to pull out that win, but they weren't able to get the job done in the end. This is a Dayton squad that, they have great coaching. They have a veteran roster, and if they do end up making the NCAA tournament, they're going to be a tricky out for whoever they get in the first round. They're one of those kind of teams that can get in that, 8, 9, 10 seed range and win their first round game and then really pose a threat to a 1 or 2 or even a 3 seed perhaps in the second round. So it'll be interesting to see what they're able to do in the coming weeks here. But they're going on the road here against a Fordham squad that we haven't been all that high on this year. Fordham relies a lot on the three-point ball, but they could have a tough time finding their shot here against a pretty solid Dayton defense. Dayton is looking to bounce back here coming off a tough loss, and we do expect this veteran group to refocus their efforts coming here on the road in a very winnable game. We do like Dayton to go on to separate and cover this spread here on the road. All right, West Virginia versus Iowa State. This is going to be a matchup over in the Big 12. West Virginia has really shown that they can compete well on the road this year. They've won at a place like Virginia, for instance, and also in conference play. They're 2-2 on the road, with their only defeats coming at Texas Tech as well as Kansas State in games that went right down to the wire, in games that West Virginia could have potentially picked up the wins in. West Virginia, when they play up to their ceiling, they can beat anyone in the nation. They've beaten teams like Kansas. Baylor, and like I mentioned earlier, Virginia this year. Those are three of the better resume wins that you're going to see from any team in the country at this point in the year. West Virginia is going on the road here against an Iowa State squad that has a strong home court advantage, but really the Cyclones haven't been utilizing their home court as well this year as we've seen them in recent years. You know, they've lost at home to teams like Kansas and Cincinnati, who of course are very good teams, but you know, Iowa State hasn't necessarily been able to really separate and put teams away as consistently on their home court as we've seen from them in recent years. Iowa State wasn't able to come through in their SEC battle as they fell to Vanderbilt on the road in their last outing. We expect this to be a pretty competitive matchup, but we are going to side with West Virginia to come through here on the road, especially with this spread shrinking a little bit down to 2.5 points. We feel like the Mountaineers are the better play, giving the points in this particular matchup. All right, and then the next game is going to be Wisconsin versus Illinois. Wisconsin, we picked against them in their last outing on the road against Rutgers. We felt like that was going to be a really competitive matchup, and it actually ended up being that way. It went into overtime, but Wisconsin was able to pull out the win in the end. You know, this isn't all that surprising. This is a veteran Wisconsin group that knows that they're safely in the NCAA tournament at this point in the year, and you know, going all out in every single game, especially against some of the weaker teams in the Big Ten, isn't necessarily going to have great payoff down the road. They're going into another tricky road matchup here, so Illinois not having the kind of results they were hoping for this year in the Big Ten, but Illinois has been pretty solid on their home court, and they've actually covered quite a bit for us at home, both in and outside of conference play. This is an Illinois team that's probably more destined for the NIT, but we actually do think that they have a shot to push for the upset here at home, and you know, Wisconsin going back-to-back on the road and not necessarily going to be putting in 100% effort by any means in this matchup. That's not all that important here for the Badgers. We do like Illinois getting the 6 to 6.5 points here as a pretty solid value bet. All right, just two more games I want to touch on. So Georgetown versus DePaul. Georgetown has been looking like one of the hotter teams in the Big East as of late. You know, they blew out Creighton. They beat Butler on the road. This is a team that's starting to live up to some of their potential. Coming into the year, a lot of people thought this was going to be a bounce-back year for the Georgetown program, and you know, that really hasn't been the case by and large, but at least as of late, the Hoyas have been finding something that's been working for them, and they've really clicked. And you know, maybe it could just be a factor of teams also overlooking the Hoyas a little bit, but there's really not a team that's playing with this much confidence right now in the Big East, and they're going on the road here against a DePaul squad that's sitting there in the basement of the conference again this year. We're not very high on this DePaul squad, and with how Georgetown has been playing as of late, we do like the Hoyas to go on to win and cover the spread on the road against the Blue Demons. And just one more game I want to touch on in today's video, and it's going to be between Denver and Oral Roberts. Oral Roberts competed pretty well very early on in conference play on the road against Denver in what was a very competitive game. This is a revenge game for Oral Roberts here, getting the Pioneers at home. Oral Roberts, they fell in their last outing at home to IPFW, but you know, Fort Wayne's a really strong team. That's not necessarily a bad loss by any means, and the Golden Eagles were very competitive in that defeat. In another recent home game, Oral Roberts exploded on the offensive side of the ball as they went on to run past a solid team like Omaha, and also they have a recent home win against South Dakota, who's also been putting up some solid results this year. Denver got off to a slow start this season, but they have been better and kind of building momentum over the past month and a half or so. Have been playing some more competitive ball. We do expect this to be a pretty tight game, but Oral Roberts has shown better at home, you know, and picking up some really nice home wins over the past couple weeks. We do like Oral Roberts to come through here behind their home crowd advantage as they go on to win and cover the spread against Denver. So that's going to wrap up the games that I wanted to touch on in today's video. If you're interested in getting our daily free pick over at our main website, again, you can head over to stumpthespread.com by clicking the logo in the top right-hand corner of this video or in the video description. We'll also link Stump the Spread. And if you're looking to get more of this content in the future, you can click that subscribe button. And also, if you can click thumbs up on this video, it's greatly appreciated. So that's going to wrap up what we want to talk about for today's action. This is Tuesday, January 31st, 2017. Thanks, guys, for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.